Brothers and sisters, friends and comrades, good evening. Assalamu alaikum. As chair of the board of the Civil Liberties Defence Centre, it is my absolute honour to welcome you to the inaugural fundraising dinner and launch tonight. We're holding this event tonight on Darug land, and we'll be speaking about a genocide in a faraway land and how that genocide has eroded our civil liberties and freedoms here. So I think it's important that we first recognise that we're only able to meet here tonight because of the genocide that was perpetrated against Indigenous people on this land and the denial of their freedoms since 1788. If you're here tonight, that probably means you're concerned. You're concerned about what's happening in this country and, worse still, where it's heading. You're concerned about how it could affect you, your children, and your children's children. And so you should be. We are living at a time of unprecedented political repression. A time when freedom of speech has gone from being a core democratic value that most of us probably took for granted to one that is very quickly becoming a relic of the past. Never has there been a greater risk that you will be prosecuted, sued, fired from your job, subjected to a media smear campaign, or otherwise cancelled simply for expressing your opinion. And there's no topic that's more likely to land you in hot water than one that is, I think, very dear to the hearts of most of you here tonight, and that is Israel's ongoing genocide in Gaza and its campaign of death and destruction in the region. Why is that? Well, the answer is simple. Israel's well and truly lost the battle of ideas. In the past, Israel would go to great lengths to try to persuade us that it's the real victim, that it's only acting in self-defense. But with the rise of social media, that task has become increasingly difficult. And with the genocide that we've all witnessed for the past 2.5 years, live streamed on social media, that task has gone from being difficult to impossible. So knowing that they can no longer win the debate, Israel has sought to shut down the debate altogether. And they've done that in a variety of ways. One has been through coordinated campaigns to pressure organisations and institutions to get rid of voices of dissent. Journalists, academics, artists, healthcare workers have all been targeted, including many people here tonight. While the professions may differ, the goal is always the same, and that is to silence those who have the temerity to speak out and to deter others from following suit. As if that wasn't bad enough, people opposed to Zionism now not only risk their livelihoods, but also their liberty, as this campaign of silencing has expanded from cancellation to criminalisation. Since October 2023, both the state and federal governments have passed a raft of laws that undermine certain political speech. This process has accelerated rapidly since the Bondi terror attack last December, and we are now witnessing the most aggressive legislative assault on our civil liberties in living memory. At the same time, we've seen a sharp rise in people being prosecuted under existing laws for voicing opposition, particularly voicing opposition to Israel, its crimes, and the complicity of our own Australian government in those crimes. Now, it may be useful at this point to give you some real-life examples of cases that illustrate the extent of this crackdown on free speech. Most of them are my clients, but I will of course not reveal any information that's not publicly available. Michael Exarian is an artist based in Wagga Wagga. Last August, he displayed this artwork in the front window of his studio. It's an artwork about Israel's systematic murder of journalists in Gaza. He now has a criminal hearing listed later this year because the artwork included the words, "Fuck Israel," and the popularized chant, "Death, death to the IDF," which is, of course, the same IDF that is responsible for the deaths of all of the journalists in the artwork. Michael has another hearing listed later this year over a satirical artwork he displayed depicting Peter Dutton, Clive Palmer, Gina Rinehart, and the local MP, Michael McCormack, dressed as characters from the 1960s sitcom Hogan's Heroes. He's charged and facing possible imprisonment because the uniforms, which are the same uniforms from the original sitcom, adorn some obscure Nazi symbols, symbols that he didn't even know were Nazi symbols. Michael is here tonight. Perhaps I can ask him to stand. I'm not sure where exactly he is. And Michael has generously donated a unique, slightly redacted, and signed version of this artwork for tonight's auction. And we thank him for his attendance and for his generous gift. Another artist I'd like to mention is James Hillier, who goes by the moniker Nordacious. Many of you have probably heard of him. Nordacious was in the news recently after the Queensland Police Service effectively directed him to remove from sale 3 of his artworks because they supposedly contravene the new ban on the prohibited slogan, "From the river to the sea." As a result, these artworks are no longer for sale. However, we have connections here at the CLDC, and we've managed to secure 2 of them, signed fine art prints from Nordacious, which will auction tonight. You cannot buy them anywhere else. Fuad Masri, who's also here tonight. Fuad, perhaps I'll get you to stand as well. There he is, to my right. Fuad is facing a hearing this year because he projected text onto the forecourt of the Opera House calling out the Min's government's support for Israel's genocide in Gaza. This, of course, is the same Opera House that Min's had no issue with lighting up with the flag of Israel as Israel was commencing its genocide in Gaza in October 2023. Thea Nolan Isles is currently on bail awaiting hearing after spending more than a month in jail for this tweet, which appears to have been posted in jest in response to the passing of the federal government's new so-called hate laws. And finally, Sarah Mohana is facing a hearing in a few months for waving a Hezbollah flag at a protest at Sydney Town Hall. This was in September 2024 when Israel was carpet bombing southern Lebanon and many other parts of Lebanon at the time, including the part of southern Lebanon where she is from, where her family live. And Hezbollah was the only force resisting that carpet bombing. Hezbollah being an organisation which, regardless of what you think about them, poses no threat to Australia, but does, of course, pose a threat to Israel, which says a lot about the priorities of our politicians. If convicted, Sarah will now face a mandatory minimum jail sentence of 12 months. And that is a result of an amendment that was introduced by the Albanese Labor government, contrary to the ALP's own long-standing opposition to mandatory minimum sentences. A testament to the unmatched persuasive power of the Israel lobby in Australian politics. Now, this war on civil liberties has not been limited to freedom of speech. Freedom of assembly has also been under fierce attack. Last December, the Min's government rushed through the most draconian anti-protest laws this country has seen in decades. While Min's claimed these laws would promote social cohesion and community safety, the reality was, of course, the opposite. It was these laws that facilitated the most brutal crackdown we have seen on peaceful protesters since the late 1970s. And I'm, of course, referring to the rally against the Israeli president and war criminal Isaac Herzog on the 9th of February at Sydney Town Hall. Thankfully, these laws have now been found to be unconstitutional by the Court of Appeal. Shout out to Felicity Graham and Rulayan, with whom I had the pleasure of working on this case that demonstrated that effective legal action can achieve results. But the trauma that was inflicted upon the countless people who were pepper sprayed, pushed over, punched by the police that night will endure for decades. And we should also recognise that there are still dozens of people who are facing criminal charges due to their participation at that protest, charges that can and should be dropped. So now that I've spoken about the problem, I'd like to speak about how we, and by we I mean all of us here tonight, are going to solve it. It's against this backdrop of repression that I've just described that the CLDC was born. With the unprecedented crackdown on civil liberties, there's been an unprecedented need for lawyers to step up and assist. Assist by providing advice, representation, and education to those in need. Now, to be clear, there are many lawyers, several of whom are here tonight, managed to score themselves a seat at the special guest tables, who've generously given their time and expertise to help out on a pro bono basis. But to be very candid, the overall legal response so far has been grossly inadequate. It's lacked the resources, coordination, and strategic vision necessary to meet the ever-growing needs of the community and to mount an effective resistance against this onslaught on our democratic rights. This is what's been sorely missing, and this is the gap that the CLDC intends to fill. How will we do that? Well, in a number of ways. First, we will establish a free hotline to provide prompt and high-quality legal advice to people. The advice will be provided by lawyers we will employ, and also lawyers who will volunteer some time each month to assist. The initial triaging process will be performed by a team of volunteer law students that we've been building over the past few months. Second, our employed solicitors will provide legal representation and assistance, primarily in the areas of employment and professional disciplinary law, criminal defence, and civil suits against the state. These services will be prioritised for people who are disadvantaged and unable to afford private legal representation, as well as strategic litigation in the public interest. Next, in addition to providing legal services that the CLDC will do with its own lawyers, we will provide much-needed coordination of pro bono legal work by external lawyers, acting as a hub for referrals to lawyers in practice areas and jurisdictions we're unable to operate in due to a lack of resources or specialisation. The potential of this was demonstrated with the 2 pop-up legal clinics that the CLD assisted with in March this year to advise victims of the police violence at the Herzog protest. Fourth, we will empower the community by providing free legal education about their rights and how they can protect themselves against this state repression. This will not only rely on social media, but also workshops where people can engage directly. Our Executive Director, Nick Hanna, and I have, between us, already run about a dozen of these workshops this year for close to 1,000 people under the banner of the CLDC, and the feedback has been extremely positive. And finally, the CLDC will be a fearless advocate for freedom of expression and other civil rights. One of our main strengths in this regard is that we are 100% community funded. And so we won't be beholden to governmental or institutional funders who may seek to dilute our message. In short, our independence and integrity are not for sale, and we will only be accountable to you. Now, in order to provide this vital work, we're going to need some support. And by some, I mean a lot. And that's where you come in. By being here tonight and by donating to the CLDC, you will help us to not only provide immediate assistance to those in need, but to build an institution that will protect and serve the community for years to come. And it won't be cheap. We estimate that we will need at least $500,000 for the next 12 months. And we'll need about half of that before we can get started. So that's the target that I'm setting for us to raise tonight, $250,000. Now, I of course know that this is a lot of money, but I want to give you some perspective. Recently, we've seen a few crowdfunding campaigns that have raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for individual cases. Now, they're all important cases, and I support them being properly funded, but it's important to understand that each of those campaigns are only for one individual case, and for one individual person. And with the same amount of money, the CLDC would be able to run multiple cases for multiple persons. This is because the CLDC is a not-for-profit organisation, and we can do the same work for a fraction of the cost. Put simply, we will deliver way more bang for buck. For example, $100,000 might only last a few weeks with a private firm. And often when you donate to these crowdfunding campaigns that we've seen for specific cases, the money only lasts for a few weeks. That will not be the case with us. $100,000 could fund at least one of our lawyers for a year. Imagine all of the people they would be able to help in that time. In addition, we will have an array of competent volunteers, both lawyers and non-lawyers, to assist our employed solicitors to provide legal services and free advice, potentially to hundreds of people each month. Now, while the focus of tonight's event is on raising funds, I want to make clear that this is one of only countless forms of support that you can show or provide. If you're a lawyer, you can not only volunteer in the ways that I've already mentioned, but depending on your experience, you can provide training to our younger lawyers or law students, help draft submissions, deliver educational workshops, or join our board of advisors. If you're not a lawyer, I'm sure you or someone you know has skills to offer, whether that's in IT, social media, administration, the list goes on. This is an opportunity to be part of a truly historic project, a project that will not only benefit you and your loved ones, but this country as a whole. While speech in support of Palestine is the current focus of this state repression, we recognise that this is just the thin end of the wedge, and that soon enough these laws will be used to target other communities and movements. And we've already seen this with our First Nations brothers and sisters. This is why it's in everyone's interest to support the CLDC, regardless of your political ideology. And this is why, by supporting the CLDC, you'll be helping to protect the rights of everyone in this country and not just yours. Now, I know that the goals we've set are ambitious, but we're serious about achieving them. And with your help, we can. We already have proof of concept. Over the past couple of years, I've provided pro bono advice and representation to well over 100 people who face legal issues due to their pro-Palestine activism or advocacy. And this doesn't include the roughly 60 people that we helped at the Herzog pop-up clinics earlier this year. While this may seem like a lot, it's really just a drop in the ocean. We want to scale this work and start assisting thousands of people across the country each year. This is the vision, and tonight you can help us turn it into a reality. Now, before I wrap up, there's some important people that I'd like to acknowledge and thank. Firstly, to the CLDC's Board of Directors. As I'm sure you all know, I'm just one of 6, all of whom have been building the CLDC on an entirely volunteer basis. And to be very clear, and just probably unnecessary, but I would feel more comfortable saying this, I won't be taking a single dollar from this project. Everything is 100% volunteer. And the same goes for the board. The board's members are Nikolai Haddad, Manal Hamdan, Majid Madani, Hanan Hamoud, and Amal Nasser. All of them are here tonight except Amal, who's had a loss in the family. And I'd ask all of them to stand if they're in the room. There's Majid. I can't see anyone else. Nikolai's at the back. Anyway, they're here around, so say hi to them at some stage tonight. 2 other people who have gifted us their time and expertise are the accountant Helen Francis of TY Francis & Co. and our IT whiz Dan Zated of Codex Services. If you're here, can you please stand? They should be. There's Dan, there's Helen. Next, I'd like to give a special mention to 3 people without whom this event simply couldn't have happened. For the past few weeks, Arissa Robles, Joyce Samaan, and my sister Sally Hannah Osborne have put most of their lives on hold while they've worked day and night to organize this event, all without pay and without any desire for credit or thanks. Sally, Joyce, and Arissa, can you please stand? Joyce is at the back. And Sally and Arissa are there in front of me. Thank you. I suppose I also have to thank Nazim Hussain, who flew up from Melbourne just to host this event and lighten up the mood. And for the record, Nazim agreed to do this solely because he believes in the CLDC and its mission. It has nothing to do with the fact that his best mate's been harassing him, haranguing him, and guilt-tripping him to make sure that he attends. I love you, bro. To the panelists, thank you for coming to discuss your own experiences as target of Zionist silencing campaigns. Your strength and steadfastness on the front line is an inspiration to us all, and I mean that. To Amani Haidar for sharing an excerpt from your book that I only belatedly finished reading last month and which moved me more than I could have imagined. As Nazim mentioned, Lizzie Jarrett of Black Caucus was supposed to speak tonight, but unfortunately she's had to cancel due to a pressing issue. I'd still like to acknowledge the important contributions that she's made, not only to First Nations justice, but also the rest of us, including being the first plaintiff in the successful constitutional challenge of the MIN's anti-protest laws. The second plaintiff is also here, Josh Lees from Palestine Action Group. Can we give him a round of applause? And Michelle Birkin is supposed to be here, but I haven't seen her yet tonight. If you are here, thank you again. And she was the original third plaintiff. And Paul Silver was the substitute third plaintiff who is also unable to attend tonight. Next, I'd like to thank all of the artists who donated the incredible artworks that we will be auctioning. In addition, countless small businesses and individuals donated vouchers and other items for the raffle, which I'm going to call the raffle of the century. In fact, there are so many prizes that I think it's, and look, maths is not my forte, but I think it is statistically impossible to not win a prize if you buy a ticket, or at least if you buy a couple of ticket books. Helping tonight are various volunteers who are all bright and passionate law students who believe in this project. All of those who are here tonight also volunteered at the pop-up clinic we did for the Herzog protesters this year, and we look forward to continuing to work with them in the future. And finally, I'd like to thank all of you for attending. Since announcing the launch of the CLDC, the response from the community has been truly overwhelming. Your trust and belief strengthens our resolve to keep going, and it is not something that we will take for granted. Thank you, and welcome to the inaugural fundraising dinner and launch of the Civil Liberties Defence Centre.